How is a game that's older than some of you watching this video right now still one of the biggest games in the entire world? It is incredibly difficult to remain the 4th biggest PC game despite being 14 years old, especially right now with so much saturation in the MOBA scene. You have Valve competing for the top spot with Dota 2, Overwatch 2 bringing shooting into the MOBA genre, along with other games like Smite, Heroes of the Storm, and Paladins, just to name a few. Through all of this, League is prevailing. Not only is League of Legends dominating the daily player count, but it also boasts a massive monthly player base of around 150 million players. League didn't become a global phenomenon by sheer luck. The developers behind it, Riot Games, meticulously crafted League to be very competitive, balanced in its design, and filled with limitless variety so that players would never get bored of it. League has also expanded its reach beyond just the game itself. It has successfully forged collaborations with multiple world-renowned companies including Nike, Secret Lab, and even Netflix, along with hiring renowned artists to make epic music videos for its promotional events, as well as working with Tiffany & Co. to create custom trophies for its esport events. There's always new comic stories, spin-off games, and new lore being expanded and integrated into its world. It's safe to assume that Riot created League with a strategy in mind. They made a game that could never fail, and yet that wasn't always the case. League has gone through a lot over the past 14 years of its existence. It has had unhappy players, periods with a severe lack of updates, and insane controversies. Some of this stuff was dark enough that it would have killed most other games entirely, but not League of Legends. So let's talk about why League should have died so many times over by now, but also why it's gonna stick around, at least for now. Once upon a time, two visionaries named Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill had a tiny idea that would soon become the gaming behemoth we all know and love. The idea came from none other than their prime competitor, a mod for Blizzard's Warcraft 3 called Defense of the Ancients, more commonly known as Dota. Brandon Beck and Merrill loved Dota, but there was a reason why people couldn't truly get into it. First off, you needed to buy Warcraft 3 just to play it, and then you had to jump through a ton of hoops to get the mod up and running. There were simply too many limitations, and it lacked the polish that any competitive game should have had by default. So they decided to organize a Dota tournament at the University of Southern California, and that is where their dream team would form. They met a man named Jeff Jew, an actual pro in the Dota scene at the time, who was going to give them information on every single minute detail that was wrong with Dota and how their game could be better. After that, Riot Games began to hire people, where they got their hands on Steve Feek, one of the original designers of the Dota mod, and Steve Mescon, a player who ran a support website for Dota players to help them grow within the scene. They hired a whole team, gathering a squad of 40 people and starting their hustle to greatness. The team took Dota's DNA and expanded upon its unpolished foundations. They fine-tuned every detail in an iterative process that involved constantly tweaking and refining. They wanted a game that was scalable, something that could further increase in size and content variety as time went on. They even showed it off to some publishers at the Game Developers Conference, but people were skeptical about the potential of the game until Riot found an ally in Tencent. Yes, Tencent, that one company that owns almost everything you know in the gaming industry. After that, the development began in full swing, and it was rocky to say the least. Jeff and the ragtag crew of interns and artists were hard at work, pouring their hearts and souls into crafting the legends that would eventually populate the map of League of Legends. While they waited for the rest of the development team to catch up with the work that they had already accomplished, they found themselves with some free time on their hands. Naturally, they turned to what they knew best: gaming. They started playing each other in other games, seeking inspiration and enjoying some much needed downtime. This is around the time that the game was about to be revealed to the world in 2008, but there was a glaring problem. No one was satisfied with the game's quality, so they told those interns during their downtime that in order to truly understand the essence of League of Legends, they had to immerse themselves in it. So they were given a new task: play League of Legends every single day. Jeff himself had stated that nobody liked playing the game. It was horrible when they were testing it out, but just around 6 months before League's launch in 2009, everyone started to enjoy the game. It was a dynamic shift. The game had cast its spell on them and they were hooked. After that, they gave the game to a small group of players through closed beta testing in April 2009, with 17 legends ready to be taken control of. Honestly, this number would have been fine if it was any other company, but Riot always wanted their players to have an expansive experience, so they increased the number of legends in the game to a whopping 40 legends before it launched in October 2009 and changed the way MOBA games were played forever. Post-launch is when the work truly started, and the first step in this process was Season 1, which came out in July 2010. This is what added the 5v5 rank mode to the game, awarding you elo for winning and giving you different ranks based on your performance. This was a wild entry into the League scene, and this rank system became a mainstay in almost every single competitive game from this point forward. It was addicting and truly game-changing. They also added 29 new legends, but kept them at a rotation of 35 to 40 legends, but that's besides the point because legends kept being added the further we got into it, to the point that they've now run out of ideas. Other than that, Season 1 also brought Twisted Tree Lines, which was a 3v3 game mode that made the game that much more fun. The game was very different back then, and a lot of the systems, including runes, were changed completely, and masteries were a feature that was later completely removed. Season 2 brought even more legends maps and changes that made the patch notes look as long as the Taco Bell drive-thru line at 2 AM. This This was the same time that the first World Championship took place, and it had a generous $5 million prize pool when it started. This is where we should stop talking about the seasonal changes because their significance was less important, but the impact was massive. League esports became a global phenomenon. When it came to online viewership and in-person attendance, League events were the only esports content to have left traditional sports in the dust. In 2016, they outperformed the NBA, the World Series, and even the Stanley Cup. Just take a look at the League of Legends World Championship finals in 2019 and 2020. Riot Games reported an impressive peak of 44 and 45 million concurrent viewers respectively. That's no small feat because traditional sports have always been miles ahead of everything else, but League came to compete and at times even overtook it. It's clear to say that League of Legends was the birthplace of esports' true rise to fame, and Riot capitalized on it by investing more and more into it. As of now, there are two main League of Legends tournaments, the Mid-Season Invitational and Worlds. These two international events bring the best League of Legends teams from all around the world to compete against each other, and they provide entertainment unlike anything else. Things haven't always been smooth though. There have been a decent chunk of controversies within the esports scene, some of which were so drastic that they would have killed any regular game. Back in 2013, there was this guy No Day Chul who somehow managed to become a coach for a team. Now get this, he claimed that he was affiliated with AHQ, an esports organization that was based in Taiwan, but here's the twist, it turns out he wasn't. The players had no clue about this little detail though. This shady coach with his deceptive ways started pressuring the players to get involved in some serious misconduct, specifically match fixing. But one player, Promise, couldn't bear the guilt that came with this twisted situation. When the truth finally came out, Promise was overwhelmed with remorse, especially since he was the one who got banned for it. It hit him hard. The situation got so bad that he eventually attempted suicide by jumping off a 12-story building. Thankfully, against all odds, Promise landed on a shed and miraculously survived. He was seriously injured with a broken jaw, a busted wrist, and other injuries, but he made it through. He couldn't afford the procedure to get him back in shape, so people rallied and started a fundraiser for him, and even TSM and CLG helped by pledging to donate a percentage of their store's revenue for a couple of months toward Promise's GoFundMe campaign. Promise fully recovered from his fall and thanked everyone for helping him. On the other hand, the coach ended up vanishing out of existence. He simply disappeared. This wasn't the only case of controversy either. During the Season 2 World Championship, a lot of the players would simply turn back and look at the big screens for the audiences to know where other players were. This was cheating, of course, but that's something you can't really blame the players for. Riot had made it too easy to just sneak a peek from behind, and there was a lot at stake here. There's also the instance of Riot being extremely testy when it came to Dota, with rumors speculating that a bunch of the original champions in League of Legends were stolen off of posts in a Dota forum called Dota All-Stars, owned by a burly guy named Pendragon. Some say that Ramus and Timo were taken from some of those posts, but there's only rumors. There was an actual controversy with Pendragon though, where he nuked the Dota All-Star site in exchange for a League of Legends advertisement, which a lot of people found to be really shady, and I agree. The game was great for years from that point, even going so far as to have 2020 being one of its biggest years in gaming history. That is the year when League hit 154 million average monthly players worldwide, which has since become the standard for the game. Riot had just announced a new game Valorant and a Netflix collaboration animated series titled Arcane. It seemed like nothing could put a dent in League's hot streak, yet 2021 and everything afterward became a slog for the game itself. There were many reasons why this happened, but mainly because Riot's assets were focused in many different directions. League has gotten old, and Riot was looking to expand, so they came out with Valorant, a 5v5 first-person shooter in the same vein as Counter-Strike. The game was a hit, and it was getting that classic Riot treatment with amazing cinematics, flashy trailers, and even songs like League used to. But things were looking bad for League because the 2021 update brought nothing noticeable to the fold. As soon as Season 11 rolled out, people did not care about it much because there was nothing to talk about other than the ultimate spellwalk and a few new champions. The biggest thing related to League of Legends in 2021 was Arcane, which ended up winning the 2022 Game Awards for Best Adaptation. This show had beautiful animation and a genuinely heartwarming story, everything you'd expect from the League of Legends lore. Then there was the issue of skins, which was a huge focus for Riot. They released over 150 individual skins just in 2022, and people were frustrated that they wanted to monetize the game more than they wanted to keep it fun for their players. 2022 and Season 12 were a hard kick in the nuts for the fans. I mean, COVID-19 had screwed over development badly, but there was almost no new content other than a few champions. No new game modes, no map changes, nothing new to talk about at all. The only silver lining was that Worlds 2022 was the best championship event that League had had in its entire lifetime. This brings us to Season 13 in 2023, where almost nothing was being done up until just now, where a lot of things have changed. League was known for hyping up each season with fantastic, beautifully rendered cinematics, but here we just got a nature doc showing off Summoner's Rift with a monologue in the background. Things were not looking good. Of course, League of Legends took to Twitter and apologized immediately for the disappointing trailer that ended up getting 150,000 dislikes. They've explained their ambition for this new season, and I think we're finally starting to see some of that roll out. The biggest change is the upcoming edition, Emerald Rank, that is being added between Diamond and Platinum, which will give casual players more room to breathe in the ranked environment. There are also new champions and a substantial patch notes list on top of the fact that this season has the biggest budget out of all previous seasons, so we might see a lot happening as the year continues, but only time will tell. Despite everything, all of the changes, the controversies, and even the lack of communication and effort by Riot, League of Legends is still going strong. League of Legends is the 4th biggest PC game right now, with the 3rd highest Twitch viewership in the world with 140,000 plus viewers, falling right behind the Just Chatting hot tub stream. As for the future of the game, if Riot continues to not listen to the outpour of fan criticism, then the game could start to decline fast. However, the sheer size and scale of the game has kept it alive. People are simply addicted to the gameplay loop and the never-ending variety that its 150 plus playable Legends has to offer. There is literally no reason to stop playing League other than players simply moving past the MOBA genre or the game itself. So with more to come from this huge budget-filled season 13 of League of Legends, our expectations are high because we know that Riot still has some solid work to do. If you want to see my video on how games like League and Valorant are tricking you into grinding for elo, check out my video here. And if you want to know why you are always buying games that you never play, check out this one. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to make sure you don't miss my next video.